Recording. All right, cool. There we are. Today, I am having a great conversation. I haven't had the conversation yet, but I am assuming it's going to be an amazing conversation with my friend Efrain, who I've known for 7 or so years now. And talking with Efrain has always been a lot of fun because, we share a lot of the same ideas and views on things, but also primarily. Efrain is an amazing dad, right? I think the way that I should say it is, you are a what do you call a dad that is on purpose, that is an engaged dad? What is that? What's the word I'm looking for? For a dad that is a father because he knows that he is. What's that? What's that? What do you call it?
I'm not sure. Intentional?
That's the word I was looking for. You're an intentional father, right?
Yeah. I think you got to try to be.
Yeah, right?
Live up to that purpose every day.
An intentional father. Yeah, man, absolutely. I think that if I could try to pinpoint a reason why many fathers are not as amazing as they could be, is because they're not looking at the experience in an intentional manner, right? You think?
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So meaning that people are like, I got married. Maybe I had to get married. Maybe I'm with this girl because it's going well. Everything's going good. Then we had a baby. Okay, now that's happening, and like it's almost like maybe there's a lot of people, not just men, right? A lot of not just fathers, a lot of men who are just kind of like, going through the motions of life, but unintentionally. And I think the one thing about you, especially in regards to fatherhood, is that you have historically, purposefully have been an intentional father every day along the way. There's no questioning it, right? Like no one ever says, I don't know if Efra is really into it. No one ever thinks that. No one ever questions you on this. Like if anyone ever comes to you and makes a comment that doesn't align with you, you'll catch it and stop it immediately, right? And that's what intentional is, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's a challenge every day to be a person that that's a parent, to be constantly engaged with the children in a purposeful way. It's you have to really seek it. You have to seek it. You have to want to. You have to really, really want to be a better father. You got to really, really want to set that path for your children. I think sometimes fathers don't give up, but they feel content with just who they are. And I think part of being a father is to say you haven't gotten there yet. You got to try every day to be a better father. Even when you think you're the best dad, there's always room for improvement in fatherhood, always.
Yeah. I like this a lot, man. I mean, you hit on a word that today makes a lot of sense for me. It's intentional fatherhood, right? Because you're right. I mean, ultimately, I think it can be challenging for a lot of people, a lot of men, a lot of fathers to remain intentional in their lives when it does seem like life can begin to get difficult, right? And difficult for a number of reasons, right? The children themselves have gotten older and maybe are now a little more challenging, right? Maybe they're older and they have their own ideas, and maybe dad hasn't been keeping up with where the children are going. So the longer we've gone not being intentional, the longer the wider the gap between us and our children. That could be one. And then also the longer we are with the same woman, with the child's mother, even if we're not an intentional husbands, that gap begins to get wider, and so so everyone maybe everyone begins to drift apart, right?
Absolutely, and that's critical right there when it comes to fatherhood. You have to have that intentional relationship with mom as well, and I think there's two pieces to that: being a husband and wife, and then being parents. Sometimes you got to put aside one or the other to be able to accomplish the goal for a specific one. Sometimes for me, not every marriage is perfect. And, sometimes you might not be getting along with your spouse at the moment, but there's certain things that you need to accomplish with your children. If it's, fun time, movie time, family time, to establish a certain relationship with each other, certain bond that needs to be consistent, because I think that's what kids respect, is when you have that consistency with them. If you just once in a while, you're a good father, a good family time once in a while, then that's all they're going to get from it. But if it's consistent, then that's what it is. And, to build that with your wife, I think you also have to have that same kind of stuff. To tell you the truth, I really don't like leaving my children anywhere, but I intentionally sometimes call my mom and said, I'm dropping them off because I'm hanging out with Ange today and we need time to go and chill. And that actually helps us to continue to be better parents.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said a couple of things there that are I think are absolutely fantastic key points and insights, right? One, when you said put aside one or the other, you made me think of compartmentalizing, and maybe the opposite of that might be multitasking, right? And so you're right. I think that I don't like to leave my children anywhere. I mean, when I'm with when I think of my family, I think of my wife and my kids. It's us together. I never think of, but you're right. There's going to be times when you need to compartmentalize, and you need to be able to say to the boys, well, my case boys, to your kids, you guys are staying. Mom and I are going. Do not call us unless it's an emergency. I mean, unless the house is on fire. We don't want to know about you. Just manage your business. Handle it. Right? We've taught you well until now. Leave us alone. We're gonna go do. We're gonna go love each other so we can come back and love you guys. And then obviously vice versa. It also works. There also is because my wife manages the household so much. Sometimes I will take my kids. We'll go somewhere and we'll leave mom to recharge. Right. So again, same thing that you're saying. So as an intentional dad, you have to think where are the various family members in their emotional barometer, maybe, right? Is everyone getting the attention and love they need? Is anybody drying out or dying down? How do we bring them all up to the level where everybody is, right? And then you mentioned, and so that's one. I thought it was really cool. And then consistency. Consistency is a really cool thing for a lot of dads, for fathers who are not sure how to yet become daily intentional. Because you might be the kind of father that maybe just doesn't know what to do during the week, but he knows what to do on Saturdays and Sundays, right? Or maybe Sundays. Maybe he works 6 days a week, but on Sundays he knows what he can do, right? So he can be intentional Sunday. So if he's got 2 to 5 kids, whatever, he knows that he has made sure that his children know that on Sunday it's their time. So he's intentional. He wakes up early. He knows what each child wants for breakfast, or maybe they're right, whether they're making it at home or whether they're going out to Denny's or wherever. And then plans out the entire day. So the children might know, okay, you know what? We don't see dad 6 days a week. We don't see him. Maybe he just works like an animal. Maybe that's what he has to do, or whatever else, right? Whatever else. But they know so consistency, right? Meaning There is a structure that even though it might not be ideal for the children, it's all he can give. So he's decided, look, this is all I can do right now. Maybe he'll get better later, but he can do that one thing, right? And that way the children know when dad is going to be around. And that's the thing. The next thing is he always delivers on that day. Right?
Crucial. That's crucial that you have that consistency. I mean, mine is on a daily basis, that I give them that specific time, that it's about them. You know, that's the way I do it. But I think you said something important about teaching and consistency. That, you know, if you have that certain child that you don't give them that consistent time. These are things that kids hold on for a lifetime. If you don't give them that, it's going to affect them in a negative way. And I mean, I could remember when I was a kid, and that consistency time that my father used to give me, it actually still to this day is such a big part of who I am and how I am as a father. It's developed me to be a better father, because I could look back at those times and say that, you know, my father worked 2 jobs and he still came home and was able to give me some time. So I think that's important as well. You know, you have different types of dynamics when it comes to fathers and where they come from and how they were brought up. You know, of course, there's parents with just mom home, there's parents with just dad home, and there's parents with that argue constantly and fight constantly in front of their children and don't give them that time. So all of this affects the development of the children, you know. So being able to set those things is such an important part. It's such an important part of, you know, the emotional part for the children, you know, their emotional development. Because when you're a father that's aggressive in that sense, and you are consistent, and you are giving them that time for them, they feel secure. You know, there's that security, like, my father's here for me. And and I want to be able to, you know, show him, you know, they want to prove things. That's what kids love to do. They need structure so they can be able to show you that they can do. Like you said, sometimes you have the opportunity to leave your children alone. You know your children. And then sometimes you don't. You know your child. This guy is going to burn the house down. I'm not leaving him alone. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's part of the plan, is knowing your children. And sometimes you set, for me, I mean, I had to learn this, but you kind of, you know, I was more of a father to set the path for my child instead of letting my child kind of set his own path. What's a better way to say it? I basically, you know, prepare, instead of preparing the path for him, I was more preparing him. No, I'm confusing here. I'm confusing myself here. No, instead of preparing him for his path, I was preparing the path for him. So he was basically walking on what I wanted.
On eggshells. On eggshells too.
On eggshells. So I've developed more of a parenting skills that is showing him and giving him the values that, of course, that I believe, and he will differ or not differ with me later on. But I think that's important, that you set those values, because that's what gives gives them that what to expect in life. And what's expected of me. I mean, if you don't show your children how to reach out and love someone else, they're not going to know what it is. If you don't intentionally tell your children, I love you, which, back in the days, you really, I don't know if my father didn't know, but that wasn't really part of his vocabulary.
Right.
So I'm intentional about telling my son I love him because I want him to love and I want him to see what love is and intentionally understand what love means. Not only for me, but for his siblings, which is a challenge.
Yeah.
Him and his sister, they have different personalities and they're different age groups. But to also intentionally love his neighbor, even though sometimes your neighbor might not like you too much, which is not easy to do.
Right. Let me go back. Let me go back to that very cool thing that you were processing. But I want to make sure that anyone listening to this would absolutely understand what you were saying because I totally agree with it. And I'm going to repeat it to make sure that I heard it right. Initially, you thought that the best approach to fatherhood for your oldest child was to teach him your ways, and then later you realized that he, in this case, he is an individual that would benefit more from you help him understand his own uniqueness, and to then while you both are figuring out who he is, help him move ahead, move forward in his own life, right? With your guidance, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Then, of course, you put those moral values that you have, and then you're the older they get, the more I seem to be moving back in my sense of discipline. Because I think there's two aspects there. And there's two, discipline with your children, but discipline in yourself as well. Discipline with my children, I have moved back more because I give him more of an opportunity to make those mistakes. You can't, it's not a perfect world and he's not going to make the best choices all the time. So you got to be able to say, well, if you come into me, I'm going to give you what I think. And I want you to feel free to come to me anytime for anything. And it's not going to be, well, I told you this, and no. This is what I think in my experience. I've been here, 30 years before you were here. So I've walked this path. So you want to come to me for anything, you can. When they're really young, I think you have an obligation to give them that physical discipline so they understand what it means that there's consequences to their mistakes.
Yeah.
I really like vegetables. You're not going to be healthy. If just certain things that go hand in hand. And I think the other side of the discipline that I'm talking about is being a father that's not intentional. You either are intentional in saying, I'm going to be a father, or you're going to have regret later on. And later on, you're going to be like, man, I should have done this and I should have done that. You don't want to be in that position when you're in your deathbed and you see sometimes the result in your child.
Yeah.
You kind of live like, I've heard this one story of this gentleman that had a son and he was kind of laid back and didn't do much with his child until a doctor told him he's terminally ill and his child has a few months to live. And he ended up taking this kid around the world and did things that he couldn't even imagine. And when I heard the story, I said, man, I got to try to live like that, even though that's not my situation. But I want that energy that I feel kind of pressured. And I want fathers like you and me to put that pressure on each other to say, do it now, because they grow up so fast and you're going to look back and regret. You don't want to do that.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I like that idea of pressuring yourself But I also I want to go back to something really cool that you said, and that is that. So I would imagine I would imagine, this is a guess, the vast majority of fathers want their children as they're getting older to come to them for advice, right? I would imagine that because I think that, I mean, that's probably human nature, and especially men. I think we like to give advice. We like to help others get things done. Maybe that's why there's so many DIY channels on YouTube, right? Mm. And but I want to connect that. I want to connect that idea to what you were saying earlier. I think that if you really want your child to come to you, where you have to be intentional is in what you said earlier, which is to ensure that you're helping them identify themselves, right? Meaning that if you do it the other way, if you're imposing your values and your ideas on them, and you're forcing them to mold onto a you mold, onto a father, me, you're going to mold to me. You're going to be like me. I'm going to show you how to be like me. Clearly, it's never going to work because they're individuals, unique. They have their own personalities, and they're going to live their own lives without you. So, but if we are pushing ourselves on them, our ideas and values, etc., they're not going to want to come to us for advice. They're not, because what we're going to advise them to do is what we would do. And no unique, independent individual thinker is ever going to want that from anybody, even their dad. So when we are not intentionally trying to help them identify their own path and their own selves and their own beings, likes and dislikes, if we're not doing that, they're not going to come to us. They're not. Because they're like, well, I could go ask my dad, but I know what he's going to say. He's going to give me an example of how, he was in the war and he walked barefoot in the snow to school 10 miles, right? Like it's going to feel like that. Dad's just going to give me his crap. He's not going to talk to me about me, right? And we're also, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's I think that's the reason why. So if you're someone who is driven by the idea that you want your children to come to you, the one thing I think probably one of the most important things that you can do as a father is to ensure that you're watching and you're giving advice when you're asked and when necessary, but primarily tailored to them. That's what it is, right? Tailored to them.
Absolutely. And you know what? I mean, a lot of the stuff that that is good. I mean, we want our children to go into this world and do good and do good things and do better than us, of course. But a lot of the stuff is not going to come verbally. The majority for me, I think, is going to be what they see. You can't tell your son to do something good and you're doing the opposite. It just that doesn't work. Don't drink, son, but you're drinking 2 6-packs every night in front of him.
Yeah,
that don't work. You don't want your son to smoke weed, then don't smoke weed in front of them, or don't smoke weed. I mean, I think that's part of the, for myself, I had to make a transformation not even when I became a father, because it came after. I had to, I had to reflect on myself. Like, am I doing a good job? And I think good fathers do that. You have to look at yourself and kind of evaluate yourself, right? Am I doing a good job? Okay, no? Okay, what do I want to see? So I think this is what happens. This is what happened to me. I saw what I really wanted to be, what I thought was important to me, and I started changing myself to be that person, right? I don't want to be drinking around nobody, around my children. I don't want to be arrogant and disrespectful. I want to be a person that works hard for their stuff. And I started applying some of those stuff, and I apply that view to my children now. And And it's amazing because they're children. They grab on and they're doing it. I'm still trying to learn, and they're already doing it because you introduce it to them, and they start going, right? That's just how children are. Oh, I should help that old lady across the street. That's what that's what I do now. Yeah. Me, I might have to think about it 2 or 3 times because that's not what I used to do. But I know in my heart that's what I should do. You know, the mind and the body work. You know, the heart and the body works that way. When you're not used to doing something, you got to get used to doing it.
Yeah.
So you know that's the key point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's the idea that the programming happens very quickly. I don't think we're aware of how quickly our behaviors are being deep recorded on a very deep fundamental level by them. Right? They're looking at us. You know, I've said this before. I have so many pictures where I have my when I am with my sons and the older one, whether it's with the whole family or just my sons, and whatever's happening in the picture while I'm looking at the picture, because we're accustomed to have, like to smiling, right? Smile for the picture. When they're really little, they don't understand what that means. So I remember seeing, there's so many pictures with my oldest son. It's like this. Look, just frozen in time, looking at me, and I'm completely unaware that I'm being watched. You know, we're unaware we're being watched, we're being recorded by our children, right? And yeah, I think that you're right. I think that if you look at a day, so let's just to your point, that this is important because I think you make a very, very important point. So important that I hadn't realized how important it was until this moment. Today, I spent talking to my children total in seconds and minutes. Today, I spent 5 and less than 1. If I remember correctly, I've spent 7 minutes. Let's say 7 minutes today speaking to my children. But the entire time, they've recorded me, right? They know where I am. They know what I'm doing. They know what I've been doing. So they know what I say. They recorded the behavior of their father for if it's 8:30, 8 plus whatever 4:10 for 12 hours, right? So daily they record your behavior for 10 to 12 hours. If you're at work, they know that you're at work. If you're paying your bills, they know that the effort at work is paying the bills, right? So that you're being recorded, like we could say 24/7. I mean, not right because we sleep, but even when they fall asleep, they know that dad is also sleeping in his bed, right? So that's being recorded. So the amount of conversation that we actually have with our children is almost insignificant. What we say to them is so little compared to everything else that has been recorded, right? If dad's drinking, boom, recorded. If dad's smoking a cigarette outside, recorded. For however many times you smoke, for however many times you drink, if dad's yelled at mom, recorded. All of your behaviors are constantly being recorded by your children. If you're not there at home, record it. If you're not there at home ever, and then suddenly on Sundays you show up and you go, yeah, you should never smoke or you should never drink. It's like, yeah, right. What? It doesn't register. How can it? How can it?
You got to model it. You got to model it.
You got to model it.
You know, and I think another good way, I mean, that's why sharing time with them is so crucial. Modeling, taking time to model is an intentional task too. And I think because of the way the way we live, we are working, they're in school, our time is kind of, short because, bedtime, and, you got a few hours in between. So, I mean, for me, I made it intentional that in their activities, if I could get involved, I'm going to be involved because I want them to see that dad is a coach as well. Dad could teach me a few music notes, and at the same time, they see how you are with other children. I mean, it's kind of cool. I go into the community and kids that are, his friends call me coach. And, I mean, I take pride to that because it's work that you have to put in. It's easy to just sit in the sidelines. Yes.
Yeah.
But to really, and not to hold that's not for everybody. You have to have that, you know what I'm saying? So I think that also, with the way we live, that time frame, if you're able to get involved to help model what it takes to be, a person that's involved in the community, that's involved with the stuff you want to do. This is things that you might want to do. At first it was what I wanted for him to do, play soccer. So he got to a point, he said, I don't want to play soccer, Dad, no more. Okay. Mom said, no, you got to play soccer. And I said, no, you don't want to play soccer. That's a conversation with me and my wife. I don't think we should let him choose. Mm-hmm. As long as he chooses something. You want to play basketball? Okay. But I'm going to also be honest with you. I mean, I think that's part of it too. You want to give them and motivate them. And I think in the beginning, there's a certain part to say everything's okay, everything's great. You have to say, this is not your strong point. Be honest. Or if this is what you want to do, then you have to make sure you practice more. And I think, those are qualities you get from being involved in becoming a coach, because you get around other guys that know what they're talking about. And you got to do, that's what this is. And this is what I'm looking for. Now I could do that on my own time with my son and give him that and say, okay, he's not good at dribbling. He needs to dribble.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that's important that, you take time to be part of what they want to do. And then there'll be time when you want them to do things that you want, things that Dad wants. It's a give and take here, give and take.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the coach story because it's in talking about how children are recording everything. I was thinking that so I also volunteered as a soccer coach for my kids because I wanted to be there with the kids, and I still have another father that was involved in. He also was a volunteer soccer coach, and to this day, and it's been many years since my boys stopped. They just say they didn't want to play soccer anymore. But it's funny because every time I see this guy, he's a really nice guy, sweet guy. He calls me coach. And so in talking about modeling, in talking about what's being recorded that you're not saying is people in the community, when you're walking around, are walking and saying, hey, coach, right? And you're walking with your kid and your kid's like, you ain't coaching no more, right? He might be thinking that, but then he'll also say, oh man, they still call him coach, and that's being recorded. The idea that, dad's someone that's recognized for something other than just being himself. And that's because we participated. We took the time. Yeah, we didn't have to do it. We could have let other parents do it, but we said, no, that's, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And it's gone. An interesting thing that is, it's something that continues well beyond the time that it ended, right? So you were not just a coach during that time. I've been called coach for, I don't know, 4 years afterwards, and that has some significance.
Absolutely. I think it's important. You got to know when to step away too. For me right now, I mean, he's my son is 13, 14. You got to let people coach that know what they're doing. After you get to a certain age, that spirit of at least you tried, that goes away after a certain age. If you're not good, you're going to play left bench. And that's the reality of it. And if I can't show you that, because I don't have the skills or I've never really played basketball, I was able to show you, you got to be honest about it too. Like, okay, now is my time to step back. This guy know what he's talking about. Let him be your coach. You want me to assist? I will. But, I think you always have an opportunity to be part of it. But know when, you can't let your ego be like, no, I want to be the head coach.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about, buddy. Just step to the side. So I mean, I had to do that as well. I had to say, no, that's it.
Yeah.
I have to let myself kind of back up and let the coaches that know take
Right.
charge.
Right. Yeah, I think, and it might. I mean, I think that should come along with an explanation to your child, right? It's a super easy conversation. Hey, buddy, listen. Clearly, I would be doing you a disservice if I were to continue because I don't have mastery of this sport at this level. Because I recognize that I'm not good enough to take it to the next level, I'm going to let somebody else come in and do that job. And it's what a valuable lesson to children. Not everybody knows everything. I mean, maybe like one guy in the world, like Elon Musk, he might know everything. It seems that way, but this one guy, and there's like what 4 billion other men who don't. So it's quite normal to not know everything, and it's quite a valuable lesson to be able to teach that to another human being, one that you love so much, right? Like, look, you're not always going to be the best, but also like it's valuable because it's a good lesson in team building or teamwork, right? It's really valuable that within the structure of a business, a work environment, right? Whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're the owner or whether you're one of the employees, to know what you're really good at and what you're not, right? You're not. So if you don't do marketing well, but you can do this other thing really well, then you got to find somebody who's much better than you at marketing, right? And that's in essence what you're doing with your child. And the cool thing is that you can connect it all of the time. You can make connections. We don't have to wait until he's 25 and getting a job, and you say, "Remember when I walked away from the basketball team?" Right? No, you're gonna have this conversation many times before because you're intentional and you know that you're walking away, and you want to make sure that he understands that you're not walking away because you're an idiot or because like, I don't know, I'm just walking out. Like, no, you're like, look, I'm not that good. This guy's really great. That's why you're going with him, right?
Absolutely. I think you see those qualities in coaches. You can tell when a coach is a good coach. And, that don't only have to do with teaching. You want, because I've had coaches that are really good in teaching the sport, but their personality is just, the kid's not good. He don't want him on the team and he don't give him that much attention. And there's guys that might not know as much as him, but know, and they know, okay, I got to give this kid one-on-one. And those are the coaches I seek out. I mean, sometimes I've spoken to league presidents and be like, listen, I want my son moved from this team because that guy, his intention is just to win. And I understand that, but I don't think my son should be on that team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because, I could see how he treats my son. I mean, my son's not that good in this area, but, you want a coach that's able to give, it's like a teacher. You know what I'm saying? Just because a student is not the top of the class, don't mean you put him in the back of the class. I mean, that's the one you need to put in the front. Yeah. So, you want to look for coaches that are leaders, that have that leadership quality.
Yeah. Yeah. Some emotional intelligence. And I would also add that either I will have that conversation with who did you say you would talk to? The
president of the league.
Yeah, like maybe like the president or whatever, right? Like whoever's in charge of the coaches, right? I would have that. I would make the decision of whether to have that conversation without my son and tell my son that I'm going to have that conversation and why. And this all of it. I would sit and say and explain all of this before or after, whatever you think it works best for you. But then my son knows what's happening, right? Why he's being moved, and that he also understands that from this is important, from your point of view, this guy is not an ideal person in an environment like that. Meaning that's another lesson that you're teaching. Your son now knows. He goes, oh, you know what? Not everybody who's in a power situation, not everyone who's there deserves to be there or should be there. Or there's also like personality differences, right? This may not be, I mean, and we're not talking about the NBA. We're talking about, the 13-year-old. So, right. So Dad is now teaching me that at this stage of the game, it's okay if I clash, if our personalities don't connect. I don't have to be there. I go play with the other coach, and have substantially more fun and enjoy myself better. It's okay to meeting human beings don't always connect, right? That there are differences between people. That's an important lesson. So, what about you and I have been talking about a new project for us and for the other fathers in our town. So, especially now with what's happening out there with the riots and what's historically been an issue with between police and brown and black people. I started thinking, I don't, how did this come about? Did you say something or did I say something? Where ultimately what you and I are doing is you met with the chief of police of our town, and what we're saying is let's bring him in and talk to as many dads as want to be present, just to meet him, just so that he knows that fathers in the community exist and are involved, are engaged, and meet him, have him meet us, have him meet some of our kids. And from my point of view, the reason we're doing this is because I believe that an action like that, an activity like that, an action like that would help keep our children safe, right? Especially because we know that, they're going into those years, 13, 14, 15, 16, where they become a little more defiant, they're like trying to identify their uniqueness and maybe doing stupid things as they want to differentiate themselves from their friends, right? This is me, I'm special because I do this. And then you happen to be at you didn't happen to, you attended one of the rallies in town, and then you met the chief of police. How did that go?
It went good. It went good. He's a nice guy. So that's how it started. Right before I went to the rally, I did speak to some of the dads and let them know how I felt about what I seen on TV, what happened to this black gentleman and how he was killed in front of our eyes, and how disgusted I was about it. And of course, I know the history behind racism and the history behind the oppressed people in this country. So seeing that, I said, wow, people praise Martin Luther King, but it hasn't stopped. I mean, this is continue to keep going. So yeah, right away as a dad, I think about my son because I'm brown. I'm of color. So that makes my son of color as well. So yeah, I want to make sure that he's safe. But it became a little bigger than that. Not only my child, I was worried about everybody's child in my community, right? Because just like I seen that gentleman die and he has a mother, I don't want to see that happen to nobody in my community. So besides going, so that was my first step, is to, of course, as a man of faith, I pray about it. And then I was able to say, okay, what do I need to start doing? So I said, I'm going to one of the rallies, which there was a lot of good points and some negative points. And we could talk about that on another time. But at that point, I got to speak to some of the key leadership of our community. And I said, this is the time for me to engage them and let them know that there are fathers in town that get together and not only discuss things, but take action. There's fathers out here that want to do good things in their community. So we're here. And I thought it was important that as fathers, which I see as leaders of the community, you have to build relationships with chief of police, the mayor, the town businesses.
Right.
You have to have that connection. Our kids are growing up in this community, and we need to work together. It takes a village. And that's really, really, I really do believe that. I mean, I grew up in an environment where it was a lot of crime, and I did experience racism, and I did experience police brutality against me. I lived in a drug area, and I lived in an area where there was gun violence. But me particularly, that wasn't me. So you saw me standing in that corner. You're gonna choose me just because I'm standing in that corner? I live here. You never see me do a crime. And then sometimes there was a stereotype that went with a colored person that wore certain clothes and acted a certain way. And I understand that as well. That's why I tell my son, you don't wear your pants like that. You fix your hat, because people, I want him to have that on his own, to know his appearance is good, but people judge you on that sometimes, and you don't want to give them anything. So knowing that, I wanted to make sure in this community that that my kids are growing up in, that me and you have established fathers connecting with each other, which is a beautiful thing, and it's a really important thing. I think people don't see the value of that as much, but it's so valuable. The relationship of fathers coming together. I learned so much off of other fathers and how they do things and how their approach is, and understand that not everybody's like me. So we learn off of each other. So I did reach out to the chief, and he said he's willing to come in and hang out with us. I said that'll be a good thing for us to start that bridge between the police force here in town and the community. Because yes, it becomes bigger than us and my family in particular. I want all of us to be able to say we're in this together.
Yeah. No. A couple of things. One, I was thinking that a police officer now is probably going to be a police officer until he retires. So if he's going to remain in this town for the next 20 years, he's going to see our children grow up and leave town.
He's younger than I am. He's younger than me. So he's a young man. He's going to be around for a while.
And so I was thinking, I wonder if anybody watching this might say, what's the point of meeting the police department, right? The police officers and the chief and the police officers. And I came up with, as you were speaking, with one good reason. If say my boy or boy are riding their bicycles and they get stopped for whatever reason, maybe something goes. There's a reason. Let's say there's a good reason why they get stopped by one of the officers, and he looks at one of our boys and says, "Oh, you're Efrain's boy." At that moment, the police officer knows what his role is. Meaning, as I was thinking about what is the role of the police, right? And meaning that he should know, this police officer whom should know that it's not his job, the police officer's job, to father your child, right? And this is something that we're stopping here. Like, we don't need the police to father our children. No. We're not police. I'm not policing the streets. So I don't know. My child went out on a bicycle ride. Everything should be fine. He should return safely home. Something happens, the police officer needs to say, "Hey, I know this guy, or I know one of the two boys, or I know that there's a whole lot of dads involved in town. Let me get a hold of one of them, or have the boy give me the dad's name." And, he could just call, right? They can call you. They can say, "Hey, Efra, what's, your boy's over here. You want to go pick him up or whatever," right? And then he has a conversation with you, an adult conversation with you, with the dad, right? The cop does, so that you can make whatever adjustments, right? Because we don't know everything that our children are doing, but that doesn't mean that the cop should be fathering my kid at all, right? So some of what should come out of the relationship is the realization that we're here, and everybody on our WhatsApp group is like that, is engaged, and that's a lot of fathers that are on that group, so that the cops know that their job, they should be able to say, like, look, I'm not your father, kid. I'm going to call him so so we can talk about this, and everybody can talk about it and figure it out. So, because I've noticed a lot of talk in the news about that, like police departments that are being asked to do things for the community that they shouldn't have to do, right? And this is one for me in our community that the police force here doesn't have to do. They don't have to father my child, right? They don't have to teach my child anything. Keep them safe. That's all. And they call me if something goes wrong, right?
Absolutely. And that's a really good point, because their role is not to do that. But what I do want to see is that if you know of a child that might not have a father, they have a role to be mentors as well, right? But that's might be a little different than your police job. But to me, I think that all kind of coincides. And we spoke about. I had a brief conversation with the chief, and he's interested in that. He's interested in seeking those kids that might not have that structure home. See, he sees your kid and my kid. He knows that dad and dad is involved. So there might be a little different approach because, I could just call up. He has my phone number now. He knows my son. If there's something he needs to call me about, he can call me directly and call me and talk to me about it. But this kid that might not have a good structure at home, and I think that's where the change needs to come. There needs to be better training, right? Better training. Should police be handling, mental health issues or somebody that might have drug addiction? There's certain things they need to train for. Home structure also takes a key point, to be able to know how to deal with those things. A kid that's in a healthy household is going to be different than a kid that's in a broken down household, or with a mother that's might be addicted to crack. You're dealing with two different worlds, so you have to approach it. It's not one size fits all.
But I think. But let me interrupt for 1 second, because I think that the way that you can make, the way that you and I agree with you, right? So the way that you and I can make that change, can help that change happen.
Yes,
is the way that we're doing it. Meaning right off the bat, because of us, the cop will know which kid is which, right? So meaning that. I think it's so key here for me to say that for the role of the police to change, the community has to change too.
Yes.
Right? So you and I are doing our very best to make that change within our community, right? So fathers are launching this first, and then when the police department recognizes that the fathers are doing their role to make sure that there isn't crime or as much crime in the community because the fathers are doing it, then they can lean on the fathers rather than say, we're going to blanket this entire experience as dangerous for us and we're going to attack equally everybody. Which might be the case in many communities where fathers are just not engaged.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was in a community that everybody was considered a certain type person.
Dangerous.
So if you were dangerous, and if you were hanging out in that particular corner, even if you were waiting for the bus,
dangerous.
You were dangerous. So and in reality, that wasn't the case. So we want to build that culture here in our community, is that we are engaged and we are involved, and it starts with the police department, but there's other actions that we need to take because, like we were saying before, our children are watching. So we don't just want to do this work for them. We want them to be also proactive.
Yeah.
Because you want to know the value of good policing and also good police, and give that respect and give it its honor as well. They're there to do a certain job, and you could see it just like you would see a bad teacher or a bad coach. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's important that they see how we are building with community leaders, and how they do it too. Like, wow, that is, the chief knows my father.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I never met the chief of police in my town. If I did, it was because there was a murder
next
and
door.
he had to come to the scene. He's the one with the white shirt on. You know what I mean? So you that's the only real time. But there wasn't too much engaging. Now in my old neighborhood, it's changed. I am part of an anti-violent group down there, and it's gotten so much better. Now, which is stuff that I would want to see here. Is the cops are going to the rec stations where kids are practicing rec, shoot the ball around, talk to some of the kids. It just becomes part of training. It becomes part of the culture. Mm-hmm. You don't just come when there's a problem. Get out there and interact with the community. And that's good for the kids to see.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, I also want to add here that this hasn't, what you and I are going through right now, what you and I are trying to put together wasn't immediately obvious a number of years ago when our kids were really tiny. They were really little, and they were always within arm's length, of us. So two things. One is what we're trying to create, as far as I know, did not exist. Meaning that what would have been really cool is if they had already been dads with older children, and then if we had been invited to participate, right? And so then, meaning as they age out, we take over. So meaning that what we're doing right now has taken time, has taken effort, a great deal of thinking on your part. It takes time, and it does take effort, and it takes time. And when I say time, it takes years. It takes years to have these ideas and these feelings that we must do something. They take time and perseverance. You have to think about it over and over again, and you have to invite dads who don't show up, and you have to invite 100 dads so like maybe 20 will show up. And so there's that. So there's a fight even within the fatherhood, right? Even Absolutely. Within the fatherhood, there's like you struggle with men who don't, with fathers who are not on the same page. They don't really get it. I don't know if this is right for me. I don't really know if I need to get involved in the community. I don't know how much involvement. But there is no doubt in my mind that, I don't know, the world would be a better place if more fathers were thinking what we're thinking. I'm not saying, this sort of intentional fatherhood idea is paramount to the health of one's community, I think.
Absolutely. That's why we're doing this. Because of our children, but for our community. Because like you said, our kids grow out, but there's other kids that are coming behind us. And this particular town has changed a lot in the last couple of years. There's more people of color, more minorities moving in here. And, I'm a person that I'm here to do what's right for everybody. So, not that I'm going to put myself out there like that, but if I see something that's not just, I'm going to say something about it. It's not just. I think if I was standing there while that police officer was doing that, I would have been like a few other people that were there saying something. Mm-hmm. You have to speak, because when you're silent, and something that I teach my son, if you see something wrong and you don't say nothing, you're contributing to the problem.
But I think, you have to say something. But beyond that, I think that there's some of what you and I are doing right now will make it so that when we say something, there is it is heard with a greater how do I say this? It has more value if that police officer that's kneeling on somebody's head has seen you before, has maybe interacted with you before, right? If they've seen
Exactly.
you at the rally, if they've seen you at the courthouse for whatever reason, if you attended, one of the what do you call these? The events that the meetings that the town has every week or whatever. If they've seen you at the courthouse in one of these meetings for the Board of Education or whatever, if they're seeing you, if you're in town, and I'm not talking about spending a percentage of your day or of your year or of your month being seen. That's ridiculous. No, I mean, if you think that maybe you'd like to be a part of, so say for instance, right? Say that something that appeals to you is the Board of Education, right? There's a bunch of different boards, and don't ask me which ones they are, but as I don't often attend, I go when it's of interest to me, but I do go. And when you're going in, you say hi to the police officer because you're nice, because you're educated, and then that's all you need, right? So the point being, if you participate here and there, right? If you're scattered, if you sprinkled yourself around town, when something is going wrong, and you say to Officer, I don't know, Michaels, and you go, hey, my Officer Michaels, what's going on, man? That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. He's going to look at you, and he's not going to look at a stranger going, "Step away, sir, step away," right? He's going to be like, Michaels is going to say, "Yeah, Ricardo, but this guy is like this," and I'm like, and you know what I mean? Like, there's dialogue immediately. There's a connection. He knows you know him, and he is going to listen to what you're saying from a whole different point of view, right? His understanding of what you're saying is going to be completely different.
That's very important. Relationship building. You build relationships with people in your community. You're able to voice more. That's why it's important for us to show our children you got to vote. You got to be part of the census. There's reasons why these things are in place, so you can be able to have a community that's fair, well-rounded, good policing, good leadership. Go to the town meetings, know what people are thinking, because you could have a thought and you go to a town meeting and everybody is completely on the other page. And then you have to really think about it. Okay, this is how it's done. This is what they think. And you might see things that, you didn't see before. And, even your children, bring them to the town meeting. Let them see how it works. Let them see how the mayor, makes decisions. Let him see how the commissioners are elected and how their role in this whole process is important.
Yeah. So I think that it's interesting that we started with intentional fatherhood as it seems to relate. I say relates to your children, but there's many, I don't know, what are they, domains? There's many angles or sides, or there's many other intentional fatherhood options beyond what you directly do with your child. And we're talking about that. We're talking about to be an intentional father, you engage in, not politics, but you engage in the town and what the town is doing, the police force, like you said, town meetings. If maybe you show up at the 4th of July, event down the street, just so you can say hello again to people, so they can see you, so they can see you with your children and your wife, or or your partner, so that you're being seen, right? So it's not just, it's interesting. It's not just being counted by the census. That's important. It's extremely valuable for every town, right? That's just one part of it. The other part is being counted visually by the people that you're. The other night, you and I were, for a few weeks, you and I went jogging at night, and cop cars would go by, and I always felt confident that if they did stop, we would recognize each other somehow, right? We would say, hey, I know Joe, and you know Joe too. So, okay, we're homeowners also, or, we've been in town for 8-10 years, right? Like, I felt that I would be able to find a connection to that particular officer that would make him change his attitude towards, two grown men, running down the street, right? And, oh, Michael, all right, so it's cool. It's important to let people see you, right? At the very least.
Yeah, because in turn, that all goes back to our families. This is why we're doing these things. This is why we engage in. This is why we're being involved. This is why we got the father groups, because we care about our families and we want to make sure that, not only our particular household, but our whole community is engaging on healthy households, because at the end of the day, it affects all of us, so, and, you want your child to be part of that process as well. How do you make sure you're helping to facilitate a healthy environment in this community? What do you got to do? Might have to volunteer. There's a couple of community gardens, maybe things you never thought of doing. Community gardens, go and help out, go clean up. You don't have to plant the tomatoes, but take a garbage bag, pick up the garbage that's around, clean up. Let's take care of this community.
Yeah.
We can't just point the finger at people that are in leadership. You have to also be part of the solution.
Right. No, and it's interesting that you say that when leaders know, there are leaders in the community. I mean, we know we do appoint people to lead in certain aspects, manage certain parts of the machine, right? If they know that you exist, they might have more ideas about how to improve a particular section, right? A particular part of the community. Like if they know that, for instance, hey, Efrain, he's the kind of guy who would come out and maybe pick up trash and bring his kid, and he may bring another 5 fathers and thus another 5 kids. Hey, within 2-4 hours, we can have this part of the town cleaned up. Then they have more what do you call them? They more what's the word I'm looking for? By virtue of us being around and showing that we want to participate, they can within their ideas they can incorporate us, right? Meaning they can expand their own ideas because we are saying that we're here, because we're showing that we're here.
Yeah, that's important. That's why, the meetings are important, because a lot of the committees, the environmental committee, the garden committee, all of these folks are part of these meetings. So you get to see who's who. And if you want to be part of that, then that's where this is Mary. She's in charge of the gardens. Yeah. Now you can have a discussion with her. Wow, I know her. I've seen her around. She's part of this group over here. She volunteers as a coach here. Yeah. I could have a discussion with her and see how the fathers and our children could be involved in helping.
Right. And that's there's also an even easier way to be this kind of intentional father within your own block, within your own street. If you are out there in the gardens, or if you are meeting, but what I'm trying to say is, I meet and engage with my neighbors because I want them to know that I exist, that I'm here, and that I have these children. And by just connecting with my neighbors with a hello and how are you and how's the weather and the whole virus thing, they know that they know what I look like, they know what I sound like, they know that I'm ideally a likable person, and they know that I have children, and they also know my house, meaning if something is ever out of place in my house, they might be more inclined to say something, right? If they have my phone number, they might just say, they might say, hey, there's that car there that I don't recognize. Let me call Ricardo to see what's going on. And they call me, right? And I'm like, no, everything's okay. But that's awesome, right? I'm not trying to allow my neighbors to impose on me. I mean, and I think that's built. You design the kind of relationship that you have with your neighbors, right? Right? Like I want to, you're welcome to help me, but I'm not inviting you to impose on me. And that's understood in relationships.
Yeah.
and all to keep your family safe, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool. All right, brother. So I think that's it for this evening. Unless you have something else that you want to say.
Um, there's always something to say when it comes to fatherhood, but no, I'm good right now. I
There is
think a lot of it is action. You know, we talking in this podcast or in this recording right here, but community building, being good fathers, everything we talked about has to come with the action.
Yeah.
That's important. Get up and do something about being a good father, being part of the community, making a good environment for dads. It's awesome. It's awesome to build with other fathers and in turn build with other families.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Thank you, Efra, for having this conversation with me, man. I look forward to hopefully doing it again.
Same here, brother. Take care.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye.